Welcome to the Newsome MMA Betting Podcast, sponsored by CBD Life UK. I'm your host as always, Newsome, and tonight we're back once again to break down the second half of International Fight Week with UFC 226. I have a very special guest host for you guys this evening, so I'd like to welcome KSW middleweight Yannick Black Mamba Bahati. Thanks for joining me tonight, Yannick. How are you doing, bro?
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I can't wait to break down the show with you guys.
The pleasure's all mine, man. I love having fighters on the show. I think it adds a different perspective, definitely, when breaking fighters down. So I really appreciate your time for sure. And before we move on, I've spotted lately you're a bit of a low-key MMA gambler. I've seen you cashing those bets on MMA Twitter, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Especially recently with the amount of obviously big fights coming up, with the UFC and stuff. Yeah, so I've been doing my best to try and cash up. I've actually lost a few money the last few cards, but hopefully for this one. I'm more familiar with the bigger guys. Obviously, with the UFC 226, they've got obviously the heavyweight, the light heavyweight, the middleweight fighting. So I'm more familiar with the betting for the bigger guys. So I think I'll do well for this one.
For sure, man. And anybody else that's listening, taking losses in the gambling game is, it happens to everybody. It is part of the game. It's a long-term game. You've got to see it out and. Beat the bookies long term rather than just trying to cash those big short term bets. So we'll get right to it, bro. Let's break some fights down. So we're going to be doing things a little bit differently on tonight's podcast. So rather than having the usual full breakdowns followed by the quick fire round at the end, we're just going to do this amazing fight card some justice and run it from bottom to top. So the first fight of the night, we've got Jamie Moyle against Emily Whitmire. So who have you got on this one, Yannick?
Obviously, I don't know too much about Emily, but I've seen one of Jamie Morley last fight in the UFC. Obviously, I think she's 4-2, and the other girl is 2-2. So smart bet. Obviously, I'll go with Jamie Mosley, probably beating Emily by either decision or submission. Obviously, with Emily, she got 2 losses on the record, and both are by submission. So I'm probably more going towards Jamie Mosley by decision or submission.
Sweet, yeah, but I'm going exactly the same. I'm not overly impressed with what I've seen from Emily Whitmire. I know she got a win on the Ultimate Fighter, but it wasn't against great competition. This line is a bit nuts actually. It's Jamie Moyle's minus 300, and to be honest with you, I think that's way too high. And I was actually looking. Before the lines came out, before the odds were released, I was actually looking to potentially bet this fight, as crazy as it sounds, for Jamie Moyle, but I ain't staking that sort of money on her. But I do think she wins, and I do think she wins comfortably. I'm not sure if she stops Emily Whitmire. I'll be going for Jamie Moyle by a dominant 30-27 decision. I just really wish the line was a lot closer to minus 200. I know. I was talking to somebody on Twitter about that, me potentially betting her at minus 200. It raised a few eyebrows, but I really do think this is a solid spot for Jamie Moyle. But you can't be laying down money at minus 300 on this fight. I wouldn't recommend that at all.
Yes, definitely not a safe bet doing that.
Absolutely. So I've got Jamie Moyle by decision, and. Moving on to the next fight, we've got it's actually going to be a really fun fight as well. We've got groovy Lando Vannata against Drakkar Klose. So who have you got in this one, Yannick?
I don't really rate Drakkar Klose. Obviously, probably his biggest win is when he beat Mark Diagesi.
Yep.
On I believe it was a split decision.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he won the fight, but obviously I think if he fought Mark again, I see Mark stopping him, to be honest. And he played a good game plan to beat Mark, but if Mark fought him again, I just see Mark winning. So, and plus obviously Lando Vannata, coming to the UFC 8-0 undefeated. His first fight in the UFC, I believe, was about 2 weeks' notice fighting against former champ in Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
The fight being competitive. So, plus is a really good striker. So I just see him, to be honest. I think probably this would be one of the better fights to watch. For excitement, but I see Lando pretty much winning, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The Tony Ferguson fight, you're right. I think it was on about 2 weeks' notice, and he dropped Tony Ferguson as well. He had a great chance to come in there and shot the world, and then the fight after that, he hit John McDessie with that.
The spin kick or spin punch, yeah.
Stone Cold knocked him out, so at that point everyone was like, this dude's legit, he's going to go on to great things, and then he sort of fell off a cliff a little bit, and I feel that one of the main reasons for that is his gas tank. His gas tank hasn't looked the best. It hasn't looked too great. Now in this fight, I think it is going to be sketchy, because if he does come out against Drakkar close and throws the kitchen sink at him in round 1 and doesn't get him out of there, I could see Klose potentially maybe not picking him apart, but just maybe grinding him out for rounds 2 and 3, maybe winning those rounds. But it's also interesting to mention as well, for people that are potentially thinking that Klose might be able to take him down, Lando Vannata, I'm pretty sure, is a D1 wrestler, and it's sort of like the Justin Gaethje sort of thing, because
he does the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He loves a scrap. He loves to stand up and stand and bang. Whereas you don't see that wrestling pedigree, but what you will see is when another fighter tries to take them down, they'll use it defensively.
So, for sure.
I do find it hard to see Drakkar Klose winning this fight, unless Vannata is really so gassed that he can't do anything at all.
Plus, I also think that Lando Vannata is very hittable.
Yeah,
if you watch his first fight with Tony Ferguson, he took a lot of shots. His last fight, I believe he got a draw.
Yeah, with Bobby Green.
Even in that fight, he's very hittable. So maybe you never know. But I don't believe Drakkar has got the punching power to stop him. But obviously, as you said, Lando does gases, and is also hittable. So you never know. So Drakkar might pull it off, but I don't see him winning. But you never know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's going to be by decision as well. I just think that Vannata might throw a lot at him in round 1, maybe not too much, nothing close to maybe putting him out, but then sort of seeing rounds 2 and 3 out and pulling a decision on the judges' scorecards.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next fight, we've got a really, really good fight here. We've got Dan the Hangman Hook against Gilbert Burns. So Yannick, what are you thinking about this fight, man?
This should be a fun fight. Obviously, Gilbert Burns, in my opinion, is probably in the lightweight division, probably one of the better grapplers, probably one of the top grapplers. I'll say probably top 3 grapplers in that division. Obviously, ADCC world champion, multiple Jiu-Jitsu world champion. Plus, this guy, obviously, even though he's a grappler at heart, he's got some nasty power. I think he won his last 2 fights by knockout. And but I believe Dan Hook at the moment now, I think it's his time. He's finally found his he strides. He's coming off obviously 3 big wins. Knocking out Ross Pearson.
Yeah.
Then obviously finishing Mike Diagasi and then knocking out Jim Miller. I just believe that right now is his time, and I can see him probably finishing Gilbert by knockout, either by knee again. To be honest, obviously with the style matchups, Gilbert is a forward fighter, and I just see him, to be honest, walking to a kick or a knee in the second round. But obviously with Dan Hooker, he's also very hittable. If you watch the last when he fought Mike Diagasi, when Mike Diagasi let his hands go, he did show that Dan Hooker is very hittable. And with Gilbert having that one punch knockout power, you could see him catching Mark and maybe putting him away. But safe bet, I'll go Dan Hooker by knockout.
Interesting. So how do you feel that? How do you feel Hooker's gonna handle the takedowns if they come? Because I believe they're gonna come. I think at some point in this fight, I think Gilbert Burns is gonna come out. He's gonna strike. He's gonna trade until the point where he realizes that he's not beating Hooker, and then I think he starts reverting back to his takedowns and wrestling. So, how do you feel? How do you feel, in your opinion, that Hooker sort of deals with that?
The only thing I'm more worried about for Hooker is him getting caught. Because obviously with Gilbert, he's won quite a few fights by knockout, especially his last 2, in devastating fashion. I see he'll probably try be aggressive, try to go for the takedown. He might struggle to take him down, or even if he does take him down, I don't see him being able to hold his opponent down, to be honest. But I don't believe it's a safe fight to bet on. Just because of the fact that Dan Hooker is very hittable and Gilbert has that one punch power.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Yannick, because this is my first bet of the night, which is the reason why I was just picking your brain. Yeah, I've got 3 units on Dan Hooker at minus 157 now. I played the line a little bit early. It was a risk. I was aware it was a risk, a 50-50 risk in whether the line gets better, whether the line gets worse. And it was a couple of nights ago. I think we saw some big money coming in on Gilbert Burns. I don't think it was an accumulation of bets. I think it was maybe just 1, 2, maybe 3 guys just putting huge money on Burns and really swaying that line. So
who are you picking?
Pardon?
Who are you picking?
Yeah,
I've
got 3 units on Dan Hooker to beat Gilbert Burns. Now, I just think that on the feet it's a complete mismatch. So I get that Gilbert Burns has got power. I know he's knocked people out cold, but I think in his striking he's got a lot of holes. I don't think he sets things up as technical as what Dan Hooker does. I also see openings straight down the middle for Dan Hooker as well. So maybe a front kick down the middle. I think the jab will be there for Hooker all night. The knees if Burns does start shooting. If he starts shooting from far away, because that's something I think Hooker made Mark Diakaze do. I think that he was making him shoot from quite far out.
Yeah, you don't get need, which gave him the guillotine as well,
Yeah, absolutely. I think Hooker fought a really good fight in that fight, to be honest. And I see similar things for Burns. Now, the reason I asked you about what your opinions were in regards to defending takedowns is because this is my only concern for the bet. My concern isn't Hooker getting caught. I don't think Hooker will put him in a position to get caught. I think he'll stay on the outside. I think he'll stay out of range, and at some point in the fight, I think Hooker will be having that much success on the feet. If he doesn't knock him out, I think Burns will revert back to his takedowns and try and get Hooker down. Now, I totally agree with what you said. I think
plus I also think Dan Hooker's a slow starter.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So I think if the first goes say second round, I think we'll see the best of Hooker, to be honest.
And I also agree with you. I think that Gilbert Burns will struggle to take Hooker down, but if he does, I think Hooker will bounce straight back up. Now, the other thing to mention with Burns is, again, he's a fighter that doesn't have a great gas tank again himself. So if Hooker's really making him work in the clinch and trying to get him down, like you've just said as well, Hooker being a slow starter, if in that first round Gilbert Burns starts trying to overwork and force the takedowns on Dan Hooker, then we could end up seeing a situation where he's tired in rounds 2 and 3. And I think Dan Hooker's going to put him away. I think he's going to put him away mid to late fight, so maybe late second, early third. I see something straight through the middle. I think
I could see like a knee or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or a knee, or as Burns is coming in, or a front kick straight down the pipe.
Yeah.
I see something straight down the middle, and I feel that Dan Hooker is going to get the win here. However, just flipping it a little bit, because there's always concerns. If Burns does manage to get Hooker down, I totally agree with you. He's a legit second dan Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, one of the best grapplers in the division. If he does get Hooker down on his back with time to work, I will definitely be sweating. I'll definitely be worrying for my bet. But
yeah, I wouldn't bet on that one. I wouldn't bet. I'm not really. I wouldn't bet on that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't bet on that one. Yeah.
But yeah, I like Hooker. I think I'm not sure if it hits the ground. I don't think it does for long enough for Burns to really start working his game. And I think on the feet it's just a huge mismatch. I think Dan Hooker's really underrated.
Plus at the moment, obviously, he's got a lot of momentum on his side as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With 3 knockouts against top guys. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do believe it's his time at the moment. So for sure.
Yeah. So just to wrap that up, I've got Dan Hooker. 3 units at minus 157. So moving on to the next fight. Again, this is going to be another barn burner. We've got Curtis Millender against Max Griffin. So what's your thoughts on this one, Yannick?
I believe, obviously, I'm going more with Curtis Millender. Obviously, coming in, he's coming into the UFC, from Bellator. He fought on LFA, and obviously his first debut, they gave him obviously Thiago Alves. Obviously, it's an old Thiago Alves, not really the prime Thiago Alves, but he done a job by knocking him out in the second round by a knee. And I think also Curtis Millender reminds me a little bit of Dan Hooker in the way he fights. You know what I mean? He keeps the fights at range. Looks to use the jab and like to kick and use his knee. So, but with Max Griffin, he had a good win his last fight, but at the end of the day, he's a bit inconsistent. So he lost to he got stopped by strike to the interim champion Colby Covington.
Yeah.
Then he won one fight after that. Then he lost. Then he lost again, and obviously he just got a win, a decision over Mike Perry. So I'm probably going for. I see a decision win for Curtis Millender, to be honest.
Cool. Well, this is my second bet out of the three for the evening, and I'm the same man. I'm going for Curtis Millender. I've got again 3 units on him again at -157. I really like Millender in this fight. I think the guy, even though he's hit like 30, I still think he's got a lot to give in the sport. You watch tape on him, the weapons that he has in his arsenal are crazy, and the one thing that really stands out to me in
he's 6'3" as well.
Sorry?
6'3" as well. What's the weight?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So he's a big dude. The one thing that stands out to me a lot is he's great striking moving forwards, and he's also great at striking moving backwards as well.
Yeah.
So that's a huge tool for you to have. Sort of like when you're thinking about football, for example, being able to kick the ball with the left foot and the right foot is a huge advantage for you. I feel that there's similarities in this game as well. If you can strike moving backwards as well as you can strike moving forwards, then it's a huge advantage. He's got jabs, he's got knees, he's got solid kicks, up from the head down to the legs. He's got a good distance management as well. He's slick in the way he moves in and out of range. I just think his entire game is just really solid.
Yeah, he does have a lot of variety of shots to throw. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
he's got a lot of variety. Yeah,
it can work in so many situations. And I agree with what you said. It's not the best Thiago Alves that we've seen that he beat, but I also don't think Thiago Alves is done either. I see some people saying that Thiago Alves is completely washed. He's done. I don't agree with that. I still think he's got a little bit left to give. And then moving on to Max Griffin, I think that. Yes, he's coming off a win against a good Mike Perry, but if you look at how Perry approached that fight, I don't think you can actually take too much from that fight, because Perry was just walking in a straight line right at Griffin, hands down, swinging bombs, looking for that one shot to end Griffin's night. And, I'm not going to take anything away from Griffin, because he had to deal with that. He had to deal with that pressure.
Yeah.
And he did that by just landing shots, circling out, waiting for Perry to come forward again. But the difference is here, he's not going to get Millender just walking forward with his hands down, looking to wing
Curtis
shots.
Way more technical than Mike Perry.
Absolutely,
way
man.
more, yeah. And I believe if Curtis fought Mike Perry, I believe Curtis probably would have stopped Mike Perry. As you mentioned earlier, obviously with Curtis, he's got variety of shots. He can fight going forward and backwards. If he fought Mike Perry on the night, I would have said Curtis stopping Mike Perry as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And then you look at Max Griffin again, and what sort of variety he has in his shots. He throws the occasional leg kick, but primarily it's just hands that he's got, and I just don't think right now that's enough to beat a fighter like Curtis Millender. I really don't think it is, because like we've spoke about, the difference in the variety of shots. Max Griffin will have jabs coming his way, he'll have elbows, he'll have knees in the clinch, he'll have knees outside the clinch, he'll have a head kick to worry about, a body kick to worry about, a leg kick to worry about. He's going to have a lot to think about in the cage, where I just don't think Millender's gonna have that sort of concern with Max Griffin. Yes, Max Griffin's got power. Yes, he can end anybody's night on any given night, but I just don't think it is going to be his night. And the one thing that I disagree with Yannick is I think Lando actually gets the finish here. I think he TKOs him. I think the pressure will eventually just get to Griffin. I think he'll drop him. Yeah, I genuinely think that he's gonna finish tonight.
Do you think there'll be any grappling exchanges between them two? Or you believe it'll be more of a stand-up fight?
Nah, I think it's going to be a stand-up fight. I do think at some point Griffin might try and shoot if the pressure gets a little bit too much for him. But Griffin's not a wrestler, man. I don't think he's going to... He's not... Like, for example, we saw Millender on his back momentarily against Thiago Alves, but that blast double that Thiago Alves hit him with, it was a reactive blast double. You're not going to see that from Max Griffin in this fight, and if we do, I'll be surprised. So I think it's just going to be a total stand-up fight. I'll be very surprised if if anybody tries engaging in a takedown unless somebody gets hurt. So yeah, I think it's going to be a stand-up war, and yeah, I think Millender's going to get another TKO on his record.
Okay, I see.
So next fight, one that I was so close to betting on as well. I didn't actually bet this fight, but I've got a funny feeling I might end up regretting it as well. So we've got Raphael Assunção against Rob Font. So who you got in this one, Yannick?
I got Raphael on decision, clearly comfortable decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel the same, man. And
yeah, clearly decision. I just believe in, obviously, Raphael, in my opinion, he's probably one of the best in his division. You know, obviously he's already got a win over the champ, a close decision win. He rematched TJ Dillashaw. He lost some points, but if you take off that loss to TJ, I believe he might be even like a 10 win streak. It would have been a 10 win streak.
Yeah.
So I believe Raphael is probably one of the best guys in that division. I think he's a bit overlooked in the division, because obviously very overlooked. Obviously, because he was a lot fast by decision, but he fought. He beat Marlon Moraes.
Yeah, Marlon Moraes. Yeah.
He beat Sterling, Brian Caraway, TJ, Mike Easton. Do you know what I mean? So I see him one of the top guys in the division, and I see him pretty much being Rob Font by decision quite comfortably. So I'm definitely I'll be betting on that fight, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, like I said, I've got a funny feeling I'm going to regret this bet, because I do think that if he comes in there and 30-27s him, I'll just be sat there thinking, shit,
Yeah.
man, I should have bet it. The reasons I didn't is I just liked the other bets that I had a little more. So what I don't try and do is I don't try and have like 4 or 5 bets. I tried to stick with 3 bets, needing only 2 to profit on the night. 3 for a sweep's perfect, but 2 leaves me with nice profit. So I've played the exact same strategy for this card. I've got 3 bets, one that I'll talk about a little later on. That one was definitely a bet, the one that I'll talk about a little later on. So it was between, for me, Assunção, Dan Hooker, and Curtis Millender, and I saw bigger differences in the advantages of Millender and Hooker compared to their opponents. And the reason I say that is, although I think Assunção gets this done quite easily, the one thing that worries me with Rob Font is he's got the fight ending power. He can end a fight any time. It doesn't matter who he hits. Everyone's human at the end of the day. Everyone's chin can only take so much, and he's got that power to end Assunção's night.
But obviously, Raphael, the size of Raphael's head.
yeah. I know what you're saying.
I don't see him even landing him, to be honest. I think Raphael he's so overlooked in the division. He should be up there, in my opinion. But obviously, he's not a big trash talker. He don't win in a big fashion. So, but I think he's definitely overlooked. He should be one of the better guys in the division, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with that. And the other things as well with from Rob Font's perspective is, I think Assunção, he's had a lot of fights in the cage. He's had a lot of hours in there. He's also getting on a little bit in age. At some point, he's going to start declining.
Yeah, true.
Would it absolutely surprise me if the decline started against a younger, hungrier? Well, sorry, not hungry. That's the wrong word to use. A younger, hard hitting guy in that division that's coming off knockouts against some good guys. Would it surprise me at all if this was the fight that he started declining? Down. No, it wouldn't. And the other thing to mention as well is, and I think this is maybe one of the first times Assunção is going to have to deal with this. I think he's going to have to deal with a decent height and reach disadvantage as well. So Assunção is going to have to get inside the range to work. So he's going to have to work more in this fight, because he's got to get in and then he's got to get out without Font cracking him. Ultimately, I'm not going to change my pick. Definitely not. I think Assunção gets this done. I think I might regret passing on the bet, especially if either Millender, Hooker, or the other fighter loses that I've got on the card. I might end up regretting it, but there is reasons ultimately why I've passed, and I just didn't want to I didn't want to be there knowing to myself that Rob Font's got power to knock him out, but me bet Assunção and then me watch Rob Font knock him out, because I'll just be sat there thinking I saw that come in and I still bet it, so I'd kick myself with there. So really in my own head, to be honest, Yannick, I can't win. either
you should have picked that bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got Assunção to win by decision as well. And moving on to the next fight, a very, very interesting fight, especially how it's all come together. We've got Paul Felder versus Mike Perry now. Mike Perry was supposed to fight Yancy Medeiros. Medeiros pulled out with a broken rib, I believe. Paul Felder was supposed to fight James Vick.
On the same card?
No, it was a different card. It was UFC Lincoln, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but it was supposed to fight James Vick. But then Justin Gaethje was supposed to fight Al Iaquinta. Now, Al Iaquinta pulled out. James Vick stepped in for Al Iaquinta, which left Felder opponentless. Then Medeiros pulled out against Mike Perry, which meant that Felder could step in against Mike Perry for an earlier fight. So there's been this massive, merry-go-round of fight changes. But I think it's worked out for the best. I love Paul Felder versus Mike Perry. I also love Justin Gaethje against James Vick as well. Obviously that's a different card. That's the main event, UFC Boise.
Who was Mike Perry supposed to fight in the first place?
Yancy Medeiros on this card.
So
really, Yancy's pulled out.
Yeah, Perry would have knocked him out cold if he fought him.
Yeah, I think so as well. But with this fight, I'm going the other way. I'm picking Paul Felder to win. I think Felder's. I think it's going to be a close fight. I don't think it's going to be clear cut. I do think Paul Felder's definitely got to watch out for them bombs. But I think, again, just similar to the Millender and Griffin breakdown, I think Paul Felder's just got more tools in his arsenal and less to worry about. So Mike Perry will come with the occasional head kick, but I don't think it's something that he flourishes in. But he'll come with winging bombs, so Paul Felder's got to watch out for that. But aside from that, Paul Felder can beat him at range. He can beat him inside of through boxing range, so beat him inside the clinch. I think, and it's a similar breakdown to how I broke down Paul Felder and Al Iaquinta when they were scheduled to fight UFC 223. Mike Perry's almost got to get in at boxing range. He can't go any further in because Felder will clinch up with him, and he can't stay out just outside of boxing range because Felder will pick him apart with kicks. So it's going to be a difficult fight for Mike Perry, and I've got Paul Felder to win here, and I don't think he stops him. So I'm going to go for a Paul Felder decision. What about you?
I was actually going to go. I want to pick Paul Felder to win, but I was thinking maybe Paul Felder might be the first guy to stop Mike Perry.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just the style matchup, like you said. Paul Felder's a world-class striker. He's won fights by elbow, punches, spinning back kicks, spinning back fist. And Mike Perry's a aggressive, forward-coming fighter. I just see him falling into the game plan of Paul Felder. Mike Perry likes the right hand. I could see. I remember, have you seen the fight with Danny Castillo versus Paul Felder?
Yeah.
When he knocked him out with a spinning back fist,
Yeah.
In a way, they both strike in the same way to where they like the overhand right and the left hook. And I just see that being a bad stylistically matchup for Mike Perry if he comes forward like he normally does. I just see he might get caught on the way. And obviously, I heard that he changed teams now, so he's training a good team now. Obviously, joined that. Is he Greg Jackson? Greg Jackson.
Greg Jackson.
He just recently moved there. So if I don't know, to be honest, I could see Paul Felder stopping him, be the first guy to stop Mike Perry, especially if Mike Perry doesn't land that big shot in the first round. I just see him walking into shots and maybe Paul Felder being the first guy to stop Mike Perry.
Absolutely, man. I don't think anyone would be surprised, really. I just think in regards to Paul Felder actually stopping people, sometimes when you're watching Paul Felder fights, you're looking at him and you're thinking, go on, finish him, put the pressure on, and sometimes he just takes his foot off the gas just a little bit too much. So that's why I'd be apprehensive picking the finish. But if he goes out there, I agree with everything you've said. If he goes out there and he finishes Mike Perry, I'll not be surprised either.
Yeah, but I just to see that I just said that Paul Felder sometimes he tends to hang back But I don't think he'll need to press forward because I just see my Perry being, if he fights how he usually does, being so aggressive, and he'll give Paul Felder the finish.
Yeah, I can definitely see that as well. So yeah, both on Paul Felder there. The next fight we've got, man, this is a great card, man, from top to bottom. I keep on saying another barn burner, and this is exactly what it is. We've got Uriah Hall against Paolo the Eraser Costa. Now, who have you got on this one? Because the line, in my opinion, is completely off whack.
Who's the favorite?
Paolo Koster at -400, 1-4 in the UK if you like to work with fractions. I don't think it should be 1-4 against a 7-2 plus 350 underdog, with Uriah Hall obviously being that underdog. I think this fight could end in one moment. So who have you got, Yannick?
I got Paul Costa by knockout, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Uriah Hall is just too, obviously coming from the Ultimate Fighter, winning by that spinning back kick, and then obviously in the final losing by decision. The UFC pushed him as the next Anderson Silva, but he didn't, in my opinion, he didn't seem to live up to the hype, and he's just too inconsistent. And Paul Costa right now, is in the field, a young, fresh middleweight, plus he's massive. Massive. And I think stylistically wise, he'll fight how he's supposed to fight to beat Uriah Hall, pressure him, and I just see myself. I just see him, Paul Costa landing the big shot and stopping him. I'm going for a first round knockout, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I'm going to go first round. I don't know. The reason I'm saying that is because I think he fought a slightly smarter fight against Johnny Hendricks that he eventually finished him in round 2. But it all depends, I think, how
on
Uriah Hall comes out at him. Now, Paolo Kosta is a fighter that I've bet on pretty much every single fight, I think, in the UFC, and I've cashed on him. In fact, one night, I think it was UFC 4 to Laser when he fought Gareth McClellan. I had Paolo Costa outright, I had Paolo Costa by knockout, and I had Paolo Costa to win in round 1. And all three came in, so I made a killing that night on him. But when I watched tape previous to the UFC, he was in a promotion called Jungle Fight.
Fight, yes.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know what Jungle Fight is, check out that.
I believe he won that. Did he win that? He won the belt, I think.
Yeah, he was huge over there. And also, the interesting part of watching tape from Jungle Fight is you saw quite a bit of his ground game as well. So not only is the guy an absolute machine, an absolute animal on the feet, the dude's got a ground game as well. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm telling you, the dude's got a ground game. So if he needs it, it's there for him. It's just the fact that he doesn't need it because he's an absolute monster on his feet. Now, I do think if Uriah Hall catches him with some sort of spin elbow, spin back fist, spin hook kick, or whatever, some sort of flashy shot to Paolo Kosta as he's coming in, sort of catches him by surprise a bit, I think that's his path to victory. But other than that, man, I totally agree with you, Yannick. He's absolutely massive for the division. He's powerful. He's calculated. He's smart. I think he's got better fight IQ than people give him credit for.
Yeah, especially if you watch the last fight when he fought John Hendricks. Yeah, the shots was pulling off, especially the right cross. The right body kick, especially fighting a southpaw. When I first two fights, I wasn't really too impressed. I just thought he's a big aggressive, fighter. But when I seen for John Hendricks and the shots he put together, and his distance, I thought, wow, he knows what he's doing. Do you know what I mean? So he's not just a brawler, but he's an outstanding striker as well.
But that's fight IQ for Yannick. So when you were saying, he was a bit aggressive in his previous fights, he could be because he knew that he was in control. When he opened up against Gareth McClellan, he was wild, he was swinging bombs, but at the time he opened up, he knew that he had Gareth McClellan.
Yeah, Gareth wasn't throwing nothing back either.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm just a bit disappointed that the line's so high in this one. And also, if you're looking to bet Paolo Kosta to win inside the distance as well, you're still paying like 1-2, which is -200. It's the line's really tough to bet on this fight, but I agree. I'm a huge fan of Paolo Kosta, and at some point people will start to see his ground game as well as he makes his way up the rankings, because he's going to need to rely on his ground game in some of these fights. So you know what? I'll join you. I'll join you on round 1 knockout with Paolo Kosta. And the only reason I'm going round 1, even though he finished Hendricks in round 2, Hendricks didn't really come at him too much. I think Uriah Hall is going to come at him, and I think he's going to get blasted. So yeah, I've got Paolo Koster round 1 as well.
Yeah, and plus Uriah Hall, Sean, he ain't the best guy to fight on his back foot. Occasionally he'll throw a spinning back kick, but I think he'll have to fight a distance comfortable pace. But if you pressure him and don't let him settle, I just see Paulo fighting that way and he's putting him away, to be honest.
Absolutely, and even Krzysztof Jotko dropped him and had him hurt bad.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. Yeah, that's true. There you go.
If those shots were from Costa, then he'd have been asleep for sure.
Yeah, yeah, waking up against him. And his last fight, he got TKO'd by Musashi and Derrick Burns before that as well. So
yeah, you make a good point, man. Yeah,
it could happen. Yeah.
So the next fight, we've got another potential knockout, another potential barn burner, and a killer fight. We've got Gokhan Saki against Khalil Rountree Jr. Now, man, my thoughts on this is Saki is, and again, this was also another fight I nearly bet. This was also in the mix as well because I really like Saki in this fight. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight unless Khalil has been working on wrestling for the entire camp and is looking to take Saki down, which, to be honest with you, although Khalil's a striker, that's the smart move here. You can't stand with Saki. If he stands with Saki, he's going to get knocked out. The dude's a killer. He's 80 something. I ain't got the record in front of me. It's like 80 something and like 14 in his kickboxing record with like 50 odd knockouts. He's an absolute savage. And the reason I didn't bet it, and I know Khalil's got the same issues as well, but that's irrelevant. The reason I didn't bet is Saki's gas tank. His gas tank didn't look great against Frankenstein.
In his first fight. Don't you think that could have been obviously as him having his making up? He's one of his UFC debut.
Absolutely,
he's not used to the clinching. And don't forget
it's a mixture of that and the grappling exchanges that tied him out. But the fact is, I saw him gas, that doesn't sit right with me now. If Saki comes out here and he puts on a round or two against Khalil and doesn't gas out, then the next fight I can be looking at this from a different angle and be thinking, well, he didn't gas out last time, so I know he's sorted that. I know it was because of the grappling exchange, and you can use that to sort of feed your next fight on him. But right now, I saw him gas, and it just didn't sit right with me. But yeah, I think Saki's gonna knock him out. He might have moments where it could be a bit hairy if Khalil starts putting it on him. But
don't you think that Khalil might be able to knock Saki as well?
If he catches him, absolutely, man.
Because he is a striker and he's a big.
Exactly, and he's got big power, and like I said earlier on in the podcast, everyone's human. Everyone can only take so much pressure on the chin before they drop and get put out. And absolutely, Khalil Rountree can knock anybody out in that division with how hard he hits. But I trust Saki, man. I trust Saki's K1 and kickboxing legendary veteran experience in this fight. I think that if Khalil comes out and tries to wrestle him, that might be Khalil's best chance to win, because I don't trust Khalil to win a fight on the feet against a guy that's got that much experience in fighting on the feet. Do you get what I mean? So, what do you think, Yannick? Who do you think is going to win?
Actually, this fight was supposed to happen a few months ago.
Yeah.
And because actually, Carl Mason, my manager from Heavy Duty, actually offered me to go. Gokhan Saki was supposed to fight Khalil in UFC somewhere in America, and Saki got injured, and Carl gave me a call. He goes, I want to put your name down to fight a light heavyweight in the UFC against Khalil.
Oh really? I didn't know. This is coming out the boxing scene.
So I ended up accepting it, and obviously the UFC ended up redoing the matchup again together.
Very interesting.
And this is, I don't know, this is a long time. This is maybe actually, it was actually November last year.
Yeah.
So that's a long time. So that's the only thing I'm confident in Gokhan Saki in winning, because technically he's been preparing for the same guy since December of last year, and he's had a lot of time to work obviously on his grappling and his cardio. So just because of that reason, and I've got inside information that they were supposed to fight a long time ago, I'm going for Gokhan Saki. But if it would have been a normal time scale, I would have gone for Khalil. But just because I know that, I'm going for Gokhan Saki. So I'm in the same boat as you. I'm a little bit concerned with Saki's cardio. His last fight, he was gassing, then he got rocked.
Yeah.
But like you said, he's one of the best kickboxers in the world, and Khalil standing up with him, it's not really the smartest idea. He might try to go to the floor, but that's not Khalil's strength either. Do you know what I mean? So, plus also Khalil is a big guy, so you never know if they clinch up or go to the floor. That might tag Saki out.
But I've heard this a few times off a few different people, with saying that Khalil's just a much bigger guy. But you go back and I know this is MMA, but listen, we both
Saki
know.
for heavyweight and light heavyweight, he fought big guys as well.
We both know
but
this fight's going to stay standing.
Yeah, he will stay standing pretty much, yeah.
And I think Saki's knocked out bigger guys than Khalil, fighters that can also hit as hard as Khalil. So
yeah.
It's the cardio. It's the cardio that really concerns. That's what stopped me betting.
Same thing.
There's three things that I don't like betting against. I don't like betting against a bad gas tank. I don't like betting against a bad chin, and I don't like betting against zero takedown defense. Those three things just completely stay away from when it comes to betting because.
Betting, yeah. It's a good tip, guys. To be fair.
Absolutely, they're the first thing. If you see anyone with a bad gas tank, a bad chin, or no takedown defense, just sit back and watch it. Unless your other guy hits hard as shit, has got can run a marathon, and is a D1 wrestler, then bet that guy. But other than that, I'm the same. Yeah, I've got the same pick as you. I think Saki's going to win, and I think he's going to win by knockout. So the next fight, Yannick, we've got Michael Chiesa against Anthony Pettis. Now, I've seen a lot of people disrespecting Anthony Pettis really, really badly in this fight, and it's a fight. I might
be one of them guys.
Yeah, well, I'm going the other way. I'm picking Anthony Pettis. It's a fight I've already broken down before. I think it was UFC 223. I had Damian Brown on the podcast breaking this fight down with me. Both me and Damian went for Pettis as well. I just think Pettis in this fight, he's got to watch out for one thing. He's got to stay at range. He's got to not get clinched up with Michael Chiesa. He's got to, like I said, just keep circling out and just keep him at the end of his kicks and at the end of his shots and combinations, because I do think that if Chiesa gets a hold of him and gets him to the mat, it could be a wrap. Michael Chiesa's got a killer ground game, slick submissions, good transitions, good jiu-jitsu. But ultimately, I think Pettis' vet and savvy experience is going to pay off here. I think he is going to keep him at the end of his shots. I think he can land some hard body kicks to knock the wind out of Michael Chiesa.
Do you think it'll stop him?
No, I don't. I don't think it'll stop him unless he does get him with a really, really tough body kick that puts him down. I just think that when it comes to the striking experience, this is a little like the Hooker and Burns situation for me. Not completely alike, but I think there's a huge gap in the difference in striking here. I think Michael Chiesa is an okay striker, but I think Anthony Pettis is still a world-class technical striker. He's obviously lost a step or two from what he was when he first went into the UFC and what he was in the WEC as well. He's definitely not that same guy, but he's still got a huge advantage in the striking department here, and I think that's ultimately going to be his path to victory, and I think it's how he will win. I think he will win by decision. But like I said, if Chiesa gets a hold of him, he's going to be bigger. He's going to be stronger. Chiesa, he will be able to get him to the mat if he gets hold of him, and at that point, it could be a wrap. I think he might submit him.
Do you think Chiesa will be able to take that Anthony Pettis down and keep him down?
Yeah, definitely. If he can get him, if he can clinch up with him, body lock, trip him to the mat, and get on top of him, away from the cage, or even if he's on the cage, I pay Chiesa his dues because he's such a solid grappler. He really, really is. But I'm picking Pettis based on maybe Pettis not allowing him to get flat on his back, and if he does get clinched up, but mostly just keeping at range and hitting Chiesa, keeping Chiesa at distance and scoring a decision win. But it's going to be tough for Pettis, and this is the reason I haven't bet it, because he is an underdog. He's I think he's plus 130, which is 13-10 in the UK fractional money. So if I was that confident in Anthony Pettis, I'd be taking the plus money on him, just as I've done on an underdog later in the card. Slight spoiler alert. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough for him, but I think he can do it. So what's your breakdown, man?
I just see this fight. Have you seen the fight with Charles Oliveira versus Pettis.
Yeah.
And I just seeing Michael Chiesa being able to do the same thing, constantly taking him down. But I just see that Chiesa might find the rear choke, a little bit earlier before Pettis managed to get anything going, to be honest. And plus, realistically, Pettis, he's 2 wins with 5 losses, in his last 7 fights. He hasn't been the same since he lost his belt. And to be honest, I just see Michael Chiesa being stylistically a bad matchup for him, to be honest. And I just see him taking him down and repeating similar game plan to who for him? To Raphael dos Santos. Maybe with a little bit less striking, putting the pressure on him, putting him against the fence, getting the body lock, and taking him down and getting his back and choking him.
Yeah, I mean,
I just see.
I agree with you in regards.
If Dustin Poirier can control you on the floor and be you on the floor, I see Michael Chiesa doing the same thing, to be honest, and he probably get the winning kill, to be honest.
I agree with you. If it hits the mark, I think Chiesa, that with me saying that Pettis has got a huge advantage on the feet, Chiesa's got that huge advantage on the ground. But just to counter just one little thing, because again I've heard a lot of people say Pettis' record recently isn't that great, but I'm going to list to you his last 5 losses. So we've got Dustin Poirier, we've got Max Holloway, Edson Barboza, Eddie Alvarez, and Rafael dos Anjos. Man, they're 5 of the world's best fighters. Yeah. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's 2-5 in his last 7, but man, they were tough losses. Those guys would beat. I think. Let me look at that. So I think Poirier would beat Michael Chiesa, Holloway would beat Michael Chiesa, Barboza, unsure, maybe not. Alvarez would have a good chance of beating Michael Chiesa as well. I think RDA beats Michael Chiesa. So I think that most of those losses that Pettis has took, I think would also beat Chiesa. But I do agree in regards to the stylistic matchup. I think that if Pettis gets body locked and taken down, I think it's game over. So
plus, if I had to pick who will get finished, I see Michael Chiesa finishing Anthony Pettis. I bet he's got 14 wins on his record, with 10 submissions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a big submission ratio. And you never know. So, Pettis has a 50-50 record pretty much. He's got about 7 wins by knockout and 9 by submission. So he might pull something out of the bag and catch Chiesa shooting in. Who knows? But Chiesa don't really shoot for the legs. But I just see him being stylistically a bad matchup for Anthony Pettis. And if Dustin Poirier can take him down and do some damage on the floor, I just see Chiesa doing the same thing and winning by rear naked choke.
Awesome. So I think that's the first one we're going head to head against. Obviously not from. Well, I'm not betting anyway. Are you looking to bet any of these guys? Are you looking to bet Chiesa?
I'm probably going to go bet with Chiesa in the 3rd round by submission.
Interesting. Well, I ain't got no money on that, so I hope that whatever you put down, man, you cash that ticket for sure.
I think I think if that pulls off, I think that'll be a good bet.
It'll be good odds that as well. I think you'll get a really good price on that. Yeah,
for sure.
So the next one, we've got a big Titanic heavyweight clash. We've got Francis Ngannou and Derrick the Black Beast Lewis. So who have you got, Yannick?
This one, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know, you know what I mean? Obviously, this was a bit hard. I'm a big fan of Francis. I'm also a big fan of Derrick. He's very entertaining. Obviously with Francis, coming off a loss to the champ, I believe they pushed him up a little bit there too early.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they should maybe build him a little bit slower, in my opinion. We got Derrick Lewis. He's on a good streak. He's confident at the moment. That's a hard one to be. The heavyweight. So somebody's definitely getting outside in this fight. You know what I mean? So the big ass heavyweights. So big guys. But I see if Francis doesn't finish Derrick Lewis in the 1st round, I see Derrick Lewis slowly pulling away and maybe stopping Francis Ngannou in the later rounds. If you watch the fight with Stipe was able to land on him. He's still dangerous even though he got tired. But I just believe with Derrick Lewis, he's been 4 rounds twice. He fought Mark Hunt. He lost in the 4th round. He also fought Shamil. I can't pronounce the guy's last name.
Abdurakhimov.
that's the one. That also went to the 4th round. So I think, even though he says he eats fried chicken after the weigh-ins, he might have better cardio than Francis. So yeah. So if Francis doesn't get him out there in the first round, I see maybe Derrick Lewis maybe slowly pulling away, but Francis is still dangerous. So I don't know what you got.
Well, I'm not going to reveal what I've got. I'm not going to let you sit on the fence, Yannick. So you're going to have to make a pick for the guys. Who you got? You can't sit on a fence.
Let's just say Francis Ngannou. Everyone's him to make a comeback. Gets the first round KO. Let's just say that. Man. But it's definitely not a safe fight to bet on.
Yeah, I agree.
The heavyweights, big punches. So definitely not safe bet.
And the
fight to bet on.
The line on Derrick Lewis is actually pretty good as well.
Is it?
Yeah, well, I think Francis Ngannou is sort of minus 350, which is 2-7. So he's a massive favourite in this fight. I agree with you. I think that if the longer the fight goes, the more it'll favour Derrick Lewis. And I think if Derrick Lewis gets on top, the dude's got some of the nastiest
solid ground and pound. Yeah. Yep.
And I think he could definitely put Ngannou away the longer it goes. The thing is, in this fight, I don't think it goes that long. My pick is Ngannou to knock him out in round one. I think he's gonna find the shot and put him away, put him to sleep.
Plus, Francis Ngannou's got very good reactive. When he gets hit, he can fire back straight away. So I could see him catching Derrick Lewis on the counter. Because if you watch the fight against Alistair Overeem, he got hit and just threw one out of nowhere and caught him. He's got very good timing and he knows how to find your chin.
I was about to say to you, I think Overeem will be able to testify to that.
Yeah, for sure. So and plus being 1 round 5 minutes is a long time to be in there with Francis.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. Yeah, I think he finds that. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. You're on the money in regards to reactive shots and things like that. I think that it would be smart of Derrick Lewis to just, as soon as he walks at Ngannou, level change and just shoot. I think.
Do you think he'll try to do that? No, he'll try to do that though.
I've no idea.
No idea.
I think he might do. I think if Francis Ngannou was a wife beater or something, Derrick Lewis don't like those guys. He always likes to beat those wife beaters up. So
he might fight his best.
I think if he was a wife beater, he might stand and try and put him away. But listen, he's got to fight. In my opinion, he's got to fight smart here. He can't get hit by Francis Ngannou clean, because that's going to be the end of his night, potentially the end of his career.
Plus, he's been calling for that fight for quite a while now.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? So
he's loving this matchup himself. Maybe he has got something up his sleeve. Maybe he does walk straight at Ngannou, drops for a level change and shoots straight in. So who knows? If he does that, that's his best path to victory, especially as he saw Stipe Miocic tire Ngannou out via wrestling. So who knows? But it's the reason why I'm not making a bet on this fight. I've got Ngannou to win by first round knockout. But listen, I'm going to be grabbing a cold beer. I'm going to be sitting back and with a big smile on my face and enjoying this fight for sure. So the next one half of the big two, we've got Max Holloway against Brian Ortega. Now for me, I can't bet on this. I've faded stupidly Brian Ortega twice in his last 2 fights. I bet against him against Edgar. I bet against him against Cub Swanson. I think it's fair to say I've learned my lesson. Luckily, I didn't take too much of a big hit on those fight cards that I lost on Ortega. But man, I'm picking Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway is the better fighter by far. But at any time, Brian Ortega can finish the fight with his submission. It's weird. Like, we talk about Ngannou, who can finish a fight at any time because he's got that raw power. You can hit a fighter at any time in a fight, but to actually be able to hit and catch a submission at any time in the fight is something special, man. And what Renzo Grace has done with him is just
a puncher's chance in submissions.
Absolutely. I think it's just tough to bet against Brian Ortega. And like I say, I've learned the hard way. So anybody that's listening to this and thinking, oh yeah, it's Brian Ortega, Max Holloway will beat him, he'll do him easily. Listen, take it from me and take it from experience. Like I've said, I learned the hard way betting against him twice. Frankie Edgar, he knocked him out. It was Frankie Edgar's bear in mind all the fighters that Frankie Edgar's fought in his long, illustrious career, the submission guy was the first guy to knock him out. So don't sleep on Brian Ortega in this fight at all. I am picking Max Holloway ultimately, though. I think that he can stay away from any danger in regards to submission and grappling. I think he can keep the fight stand. Well, I think he'll definitely keep the fight standing. He's got something like 85% takedown defense or something crazy like that. He's longer.
He's got what, 80?
I think it's something like 85% takedown defense. It's around that number. So, do you know the last guy to take him down, Yannick?
Who was this?
Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor.
Wow. His lost. Wow. Wow.
So
that's nuts.
Exactly.
That's
so
crazy,
I personally think that Max Holloway can stay on his feet. I think he's got a huge advantage on the feet. Again, it seems like I'm a broken record in this podcast talking about these huge gaps in advantages on the feet, but I just think it applies here as well. Would it surprise me if Ortega pulled off something crazy and submitted him?
Nah.
Absolutely not. But who have you got, Yannick?
Safe bet as well, Max Holloway. Holloway. Yeah, so I agree totally with vision of Ortega. You can't count him out. He can pull a submission at any point of the fight. And his last few fights, when he fought Frankie Edgar, his striking has improved. But I just believe on the defense side, he's also very hittable.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's very hittable. He likes to exchange. I listened to an interview with his grappling coach. I forgot his name.
Is it Enzo Gracie?
No. It's another Gracie. Okay. There's two brothers from Gracie Academy. I forgot his name anyway. I know he was saying that how Ortega does well when chaos happens. So when things go wrong, that's what he does his best. If you look, for example, when he fought Cub Swanson, Cub Swanson was technically outstriking him, to be fair. And as soon as things gotta be more chaotic, he finds a way to win. And also Max Holloway, he is also hittable. He tends to like to be in exchanges. So I see something like that happening, both exchanging, but I just see Max Holloway being the better striker, being able to pick him apart and, staying out of trouble. And maybe, Max is not really a big one punch or one kicker knockout artist, but he's got, like you said, he's got a lot of variety. He can hit you from any angle, left and right. And I just see him picking him apart the whole five round and getting a point decision. Yeah, that's what I see, to be honest. Yeah.
I totally agree, man. Just moving back to the Gracie, it's Henna Gracie, I believe.
That's the one, Henna
Gracie. So not Enzo.
Yeah.
That was my bad. They're all. There's so many.
So many Gracies.
It's tough to keep up. But I totally agree. I think, and you know what? The line's actually coming down on Max Holloway. I think you can even pick him up at -130 now, which is 10-13. But again, I can't do it. I can't bet against Ortega because if that loses, I'm just going to be sat there thinking, well, this is 3 times in a row now. Like, how many times it got to happen before a guy learns his lesson? I sort of wish that I'd not lost twice on him now, because I might take that chance, thinking that I could have just been off on one fight, but losing bets on the last 2, it comes a point where you've just got to bet smart, man, and learn from your mistakes. That's the only way you get better in this game.
Plus, I see these guys probably fighting again in the future. They're both like 26 and 27.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So I can't remember last time I seen a 26 versus 27 years old fighting for a belt. That's really unheard of, really.
And it's crazy because they could both even fight again up at lightweight.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely see them fighting in the future again, regardless who wins or loses. They'll definitely be fighting together in the future. And what a cracking fight.
Oh yeah, man! I can't wait. Again, it's going to be another fight.
That's the fight that'll keep you in the edge of your seat. Because if Max makes a mistake, Brian Ortega is jumping on his neck.
And listen, a key thing for us boys as well, Yannick, is it's also a fight that keeps you awake at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Well, pretty much the whole card, as you said, we've got obviously Gokhan Saki, the Chiesa fight, and the 2 big heavyweights. You got no choice but to stay up.
Oh, absolutely, man. I don't think we're even going to need an energy drink for this fight either. I think it's just going to be eyes wide open throughout the entire lot. Which brings us to the super fight. And it is a super fight. is a super fight. Yeah. We've got the world heavyweight champion against the world light heavyweight champion. We've got Stipe Miocic against Daniel Cormier. Yannick, who you got?
Ooh. Let's make history. Daniel Cormier, 2 division world champion. That's what I'm going for.
Sweet. So how do you think he gets it done, man?
I say being obviously as he said himself, at the end of the day he was, what was it? He might have been maybe like 13-0 or 14-0 at heavyweight. So it's nothing new to him, And
Daniel Cormier never lost a round, don't you, until he fought John Jones at light heavyweight. So he never even lost a round at heavyweight.
Oh, even how about now? Till now? How about till now?
Well, yeah, as a heavyweight, he's never lost a round.
Never lost a
round. The first time
so...
he'd lost a round was when he dropped down to light heavyweight and he
fought John Jones.
Interesting stat.
Who's that? How tall is Stipe? Is he very tall?
I think he's maybe 6. I guess maybe about 6'3", 6'4". I'm just getting up now.
Yeah, it's not
6'4".
Tall.
Yeah.
About probably around the same height as John Jones, really.
Yeah. But it would be very, very close.
Yeah, and stylistically, obviously, they both have the same style. With DC being, where they both basically boxer wrestlers. But Stipe, his last few fights, pretty much been keeping the fire on the feet, coming forward and striking. Obviously, he fought Cigano and took him down and wrestled him. But do you think he'll be able to take down DC?
No. Everyone's been waiting for my third bet, and I did mention it was an underdog. So I think
who's it?
I think everyone's putting 2 and 2 together now. The bet's Daniel Cormier. I've got 2 units on Daniel Cormier at plus 240, which is 12-5. It's it's fucking unbelievable, the line. It's so off. It's so disrespectful. It's just wrong. It's completely wrong in every way that you look at this fight. It should be a pick'em, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It should be minus 120 apiece. I'd still bet Daniel Cormier at that, by the way. So, I'm not betting for value. I always say to everybody, doesn't matter whether a fighter is plus 500. Even if I think that fighter's going to lose, I won't bet him for value because at the end of the day, a bet's worth nothing if it loses. I'll never bet for value. But in this spot, man, I'm so confident in Daniel Cormier. Like, I know a lot of people are saying it's a close fight, and it could be a close fight. The one thing I will say, before I break this down, is whoever wins this fight, I think they're going to make it look easy. So I think if Miocic wins, I think he starches Cormier early, sort of round 1, maybe early round 2.
Like yeah.
But if DC wins, we're going to see him dumping Miocic time and time again. We're potentially going to see some sort of submission, maybe a rear naked choke, or we'll see him completely dominate him and gas him out and just, again, rag him about for 5 rounds and take a decision. So I think whichever way you look at it, whoever wins, it's going to be very comfortable for that guy. Now, I get that people are sort of tied between the two, but I love Daniel Cormier. Yeah. I think he's going to be able to get the takedowns. When has Cormier never not been able to get the takedowns, no matter who he's fought in? He's fought wrestlers. He fought John Jones. Yep. Yeah, I don't think John Jones is a D1 wrestler like Miocic, but fuck me, at one point he picked John Jones up and slammed him. If the guy wants to take you down, you're going down. And the other thing that you mentioned as well is the boxing. I know both guys are boxers. I think the advantage does go to Stipe Miocic in this respect, but Cormier's got improved boxing, man. You saw that against Ozdemir. He's not afraid to throw his hands. He's not afraid to take a shot. And it's also, with him coming up to heavyweight, he's not going to see anything from Miocic that, in regards to raw power from a 250-pound dude, that he's not seen before. He's been in there with heavy hitters.
He's been there before, yeah, for sure.
So I just think this is a really good spot for Daniel Cormier. I think that he can get the takedowns. I don't think Miocic is going to be looking to take Cormier down. I think if Miocic tries shooting in on Cormier, I think Cormier will be able to reverse and get him down subsequently.
Plus, I also see that a big gap in Stipe's ground game. I've never really seen him on his back, ever.
Exactly, yeah. And
I've never seen him ever on his back.
And something that people don't talk about, because there's a difference between wrestling and grappling, man. And I think that what people don't talk about is how good of a grappler DC is. He's not just your Olympic freestyle wrestler. He's a solid grappler as well. He's great in every position, whether he's in guard, passing to then half guard, side control. You saw him get Gokhan Saki in a mounted crucifix, finished him that way. He's solid wherever he is on top on the mat. And I can't say enough like how confident I am in Daniel Cormier in this spot. And I think if you go to betmma.tips, which is where I'm third party tracked and verified, and you look at the people that have bet Cormier against the people that have bet Miocic, by a landslide, Cormier takes the lead in that respect as well. And I do think some of those bets might be value bets because I know a couple of guys that I talk to, a couple of really good guys that I really get on with. I know some people do play the value bet game, so they will play good underdog odds, and that's their strategy, and that's great because it works for them. So I do think that other people adopt that strategy as well, but ultimately I just think a lot of people are seeing the same thing. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Miocic knocked him out.
I don't see that him knocking out that DC unless DC's chin is gone. He's not the youngest athlete, but realistically, Stipe isn't really a knockout puncher. He's won his last few fights by more like TKO. He won a fight. He stopped Mark Hunt by TKO, but that's after 5 rounds of literally beating him up. Then he fought Andrei Arlovski, who's got no chin. Then for Fabricio Verdum, who's got no chin. Then he also stopped Alistair Overeem with no chin. Fought DeSantos, who's pretty much been punch drunk since he fought Ken Velasquez.
Yeah.
So I don't see he's that much of a heavy-handed enough to stop DC.
And see, I look at this from a slightly different angle than you as well, because I agree with what you've said. But when I say this, I don't want people to think I'm disrespecting Miocic, because I'm not. But these are legit reasons why I find it hard to trust Miocic in this spot, and I'll tell you why. So Francis Ngannou, he beat him in a 5-round decision. Ngannou was totally gassed. So
you should have stopped him
a minute or two into round 2.
Yeah.
So he couldn't finish and get a completely empty Ngannou. He couldn't finish Ngannou in like maybe 4 solid rounds of Ngannou being gassed. Then you look at Junior Dos Santos. Credit to him, he knocked him out, but I think Dos Santos backed himself up to the cage, allowed the shots to come, and he subsequently that chin that's been checked, like you said so many times, got caught. He got put away. Alistair Overeem, I believe he should have lost his belt then if Overeem didn't jump in for a guillotine after he dropped him.
And Overeem dropped him several times also.
Yeah, and he just didn't follow up with the shots. He followed up with a guillotine. I think if he'd followed up with shots, I don't think Miocic would have been the champion anymore. Then you look back at Verdum, where he won the belt. Verdum came out stupid grin on his face. He ran straight at him. With his neck out and got everything that he deserved in that fight. So for me, I'm not disrespecting Miocic. I'm just finding it hard to trust him, because he's fought a lot of guys that maybe could have fought better fights if they fought a better game plan. DC's got some of the best fight IQ in the game. He knows what Miocic is about. He knows what he needs to do to win this fight, and I think he can impose that, and I think he will get his hand raised. I think we will see history. We will see the new baddest man on the planet. And I think Cormier takes a decision. I actually don't think that he submits him. I think that he just keeps dumping him and just grinds out an old school 5-round decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do see DC, winning the fight, possibly by decision. But I just don't see Stipe finishing DC, to be honest. I just don't see it, even by strikes. Definitely not by submission.
Well, I like that even more if, from your opinion, because I think if Miocic does win, he wins by knockout. I think any other method of victory of the fight goes DC's way. So I think if it's a submission, it's DC. I think if it's a decision, it's DC. So, that fills me with slightly more confidence if you're saying that you can't see that. I mean, it is heavyweight at the end of the day, so it can happen, but. Man, I ultimately agree with you. So,
do you think this? If DC does win, do you think he'll retire?
No, I think I don't know. I don't know for sure. I think what'll happen, in my opinion, is I think if he beats Miocic, I could see him passing sort of vacating the title, ready for Kane coming back
For
if
Kane
comes back. Because I always think that DC wanted the heavyweight belt, but he couldn't because Kane was up there.
Kane was close to fighting for that belt as well.
Yeah, so this is sort of his chance, and I think he takes it. I think he takes the belt. I think he vacates it. Maybe moves down to light heavyweight. I'm not sure, but who knows? The guy's 39. He might retire on a high. You know, at 39 years old, you've given everything you can to the sport. You suddenly become heavyweight champion and light heavyweight champion in the UFC. You are the baddest man on the planet. What better time is there to retire than
and plus,
that moment?
Realistically, there's no one out there really coming out for him to fight. I like heavyweight anyway. I like heavyweight. There's not really anyone that really, his last fight at light heavyweight was, Volkan. With all due respect, Volkan shouldn't really be in there with DC really.
No, I cashed big on that. Yeah, I bet a lot on Daniel Cormier. So just to quickly run over my bets, because we've done this a little bit differently this time. I've got 2 units on Daniel Cormier at plus 240. I've got 3 units on Curtis Millender at minus 156, and I've got 3 units on Dan Hooker also at 156 as well. So that's all she wrote, Yannick. I've really enjoyed breaking some fights down with you, bro. It's been really fun. So I'm going to hand it over to you now. Anybody that you need to shout out, anything that you need to plug, you can do that right now. The floor is yours. Take it away, man.
Oh, first of all, I want to thank you guys, for having me on. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. It's my pleasure, man.
Yeah, I was wanting to do a podcast, and I've got that on my checklist. So thanks for having me. And of course, my manager, Carl, from Heavy Duty Management. Do you know what I mean? So I think Carl and his team, one of the best management around, and definitely up and coming. We're having major athletes, from all around the world, from the UFC, KSW, the AFC, Bama, Cage Warriors. You know what I mean? So I want to thank him, and of course, you can check me out and keep up with me on Twitter, Yannick_Bahati, and that's the same for for Facebook and also for Instagram. And that's about it, buddy.
Sweet. So just a quick message from me. If you're listening to this podcast on the Newsome MMA YouTube channel, it's also available on the Newsome MMA website too, along with so much additional content surrounding all aspects of MMA. It really does have something for everybody on the website. So we've got betting advice, we've got MMA podcasts, we've got a brand new DraftKings section. We've also got specific content coming from the Heavy Duty Fight Management team too. Also, please check out the sponsor of Newsome MMA, which is CBD Life UK. You can access the offers from my sponsorship by clicking any of the banners on the Newsome MMA website, and you can also get 15% off your first order by using promo code Newsome MMA, so don't miss out on that offer.
And how does that CBD work? I've been reading a little bit of research, but I'm not very educated on the CBD. Give me a little quick preview.
So CBD is primarily used for sort of like a healthy lifestyle, and you're supposed to use it more of a supplement. It's something that I use as well. I know a lot of other fighters that use it. So I was interviewing Curtis Blades the other day. He mentioned that he's got a sponsor with CBD. I know I've seen Aljamain Sterling mention it. I've seen Terry and Ware mention it. So it is something that's getting bigger. For athletes, I've heard that it sort of helps like your aches and pains and stuff after training. You sort of don't get up the next day and not be able to, walk down the stairs. But there's a lot of stuff out there, man. So, keep digging and doing your research, because you might find it's something that really benefits you. I believe Ian Freeman also uses it as well. I've seen him post a few things on Facebook about it. Same company as well, CBD Life UK. Yeah. So. For sure, it's something that's definitely growing, and it's used by a lot of athletes for sure. So
okay, thanks
Yannick,
for buddy.
That's all she wrote. Again, I just want to thank you for taking the time to join me on the podcast. I've really enjoyed breaking some fights down with you. Hopefully, it won't be the last time. We'll get you back on again another time, and we'll talk some more fights on another fight card.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it, buddy.
Cheers, Yannick. See you later.
Also, thank you, bud. Take care.